stir it up and do things our way. So if you wanna move, get out of our way.
PCPers, we've got a special bonus episode that I've been teasing, that I've been promising with Dahlia Bradshaw, aka Bravo Bitchfest.
That's it.
She is here. Yep. I don't know if you don't recognize her because she doesn't have her Bethany face on right now, the Bethany filter.
The Bethany filter is honestly my truest form. Like, this doesn't feel like me, you know? I'm out of my drag right now.
You're out of your drag. Yes. But it is you. It is you. It is you in person. Yay. I'm so excited that you could do this, that you wanted to, because you love astrology like I do.
Yes, I am so excited. I was talking about it this morning and was like, this is the perfect center of the Venn diagram of like the nichest of niche.
Yes. And we're not alone, because there's so many like Bravo astrology people out there, like people who are very into it. So we're not alone. You and I are not alone. And there's a niche out there of PCP listeners and non-PCP listeners and Bravo Bitchfest fans and non-Bravo Bitchfest fans that are just also going to come together and create our all new Venn diagram.
Yes.
So it's going to be amazing.
Our Bravo astrology cult.
The only kind of cult I want to be a part of.
Literally, I've been preparing my whole life for this, honestly.
Well, that scares me. But needless to say, our first episode, we are going to focus on John Jansen and Alexis Bellino's relationship chart. Yes,
Because who else?
I mean, yeah, especially because this should be coming out on a Friday right after Real Housewives of Orange County. So, I mean, why not talk about the like second worst couple, I would say, in Bravo history after like Rachel and Tom?
Oh, I was thinking maybe Vicky and Brooks.
Oh, yeah.
Also terrible.
But
They're
I guess
giving
like
each other a run for their money. But no, I would say number one is Alexis and John. And I almost hesitate to even talk about it because I don't even want to give her the publicity at all. You know what I mean? She's just way too excited about being on Instagram.
So excited.
And Tamara, last episode, you could see it. Like, there was a moment that I cringed so hard because Tamara was like, "Oh, all you have to do is open up Instagram and you'll see her." And Alexis was like, like, "Oh, you're enjoying this way too much for me."
Girl, yes, she is.
It's okay if we are talking shit about them. Then I'm okay with it.
Well,
as long as it's trash that we're talking.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's all that Bravo podcasts are.
Literally. What else would we do? Compliment them?
No.
I don't think so. To be ridiculous.
This is not
you did. I feel like I need to give the disclaimer that you are the astrology expert. I am a novice. Okay. So I prepared a couple of questions, but a lot of this is going to have to be off the cuff as you explain it, and I'll kind of go along with it. So I just want everyone to know ahead of time that I might sound like an idiot when we're talking about astrology, because a lot of these, I'll be asking the questions that other people, non-astrologers, don't know.
And that's perfect. And I also think to start off with too, is that like, this is for entertainment purposes. Like, please don't go after John and Alexis for anything that I say. Please don't take it as fact. Please, like, this is also my interpretation of it. And I also don't have a complete picture of them because I do not have their birth times. And that makes a big difference. Like, and as you'll see as we go on, that knowing your birth time is very important to knowing your entire chart. Now, you can get readings without your birth time, but it does make a big difference. And now, granted, there are people who are, whether you were adopted, you're born in a country that doesn't keep, very good birth times, things like that. There's always reasons like that you don't have a birth time. And there are astrologers out there that do what they call chart rectifications, where they can try to figure out what time you were born. I don't do that. I can get ideas, but if you are interested in something like that, I highly recommend finding, if you are in that position of not knowing your birth time, finding an astrologer who does that. So Just want to make that clear. First of all, also, like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a financial advisor. I am not a therapist. I'm not, none of those things. So I am just a part-time astrologer and reality TV casting professional.
Yeah.
So, there we go.
An astrology girly.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been an astrology girl.
And I love that.
Ever since I was little, I was like, good. As soon as I got like my 17 magazine, I flipped to the back to read my horoscope. That's the first thing I did. Yep.
Yes.
Always. All right. Well, let's get into them real quick.
Okay.
So let me remember how to do this. Hold on. Here we go.
All right.
So here we're going to see wonderful Alexis Bellino and John Jansen's charts right here. So Alexis's chart is on the inside here. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's get my mouse right. Hold on. There we go. Good morning, Stacy. Her chart is on the inside right here. Okay. And John Jansen's chart is on the outside right here. Okay. So now, like I said earlier, I don't have their birth time, so I cannot tell what their rising sign is. And like, look, in a lot of like popular astrology, a lot of like what we are born with, not born with, what we are told is that like, oh, our compatibility is based on our sun sign. It's actually not. That's like saying that only blonde-haired people should be with blonde-haired people, and brunettes should be with brunettes, and redheads should be with redheads, and bald people should be with other bald people. Like, that's not how it works. Like, that's very simplistic way of viewing compatibility. Compatibility has to deal with a myriad of things. And one of the places it does start is with the ascendant. If there are certain, and the ascendant is based on it is the sign that is on the eastern horizon at the moment of your birth. And that then determines everything, your house placements. Houses are these little pie shapes here in which the signs sit on. They would normally be houses. So this would be like the first house. If this was, let's say, Alexis's ascendant was there. Ascendant / rising sign. They mean the same thing. Right. And so that would be her first house, and then second, third, and so on. And this is where, like, think about it as like, this is the environment in which the planets play. So they would play like, in the fourth house, this is where the planets would play at home or with their family. And in the 10th house, this is where the planets play in their career or how they want to be seen. But since we don't know their birth times, I'm starting everything where we start the astrological year, which is at Aries. So I'm just starting them at Aries, and we're not even going to talk about the houses. That would give us some more depth into them, but I just don't have it. So we can't do it. So we're just going to go off of basically how their planets line up and how they interact with each other. The interactions are these like lines here, these red and blue lines. These are called aspects. Okay. The only problem with this software that I have right now is that they're really only showing her aspects to herself in her chart. So I haven't figured out the way to like kind of get rid of that. But it's what I've got right now. So I just have to deal with it. Let's see. So, but another quick thing, another reason we need to know people's birth times is that it actually can affect your moon sign too. Because the moon moves very quickly. The ascendant moves the fastest. Granted, it's just a point in the sky, but the moon actually moves every 2 days. Changes sign every 2 days. So it moves very fast. When I did their charts at noon, there's both of them. So John I'm putting it as a Scorpio moon, and Alexis
he's got Scorpio moon vibes. Let's be honest.
Well, he's also got a Scorpio sun too.
So yeah, I see a lot of Scorpio action over there. And honestly, that's explaining a lot.
It does. It really does. Yeah. But she is a Capricorn sun, and then a Capricorn moon. And she's a Capricorn sun at the very end of Capricorn, and then a Capricorn moon. And the thing is though, this is her set at 9 a.m. If we just go ahead a couple of hours, then she becomes an Aquarius moon. So if she's born in the morning, like if she was born at 5 a.m. in Hannibal, Missouri, she's still a Capricorn moon. But if she was born at 7 p.m. in Hannibal, Missouri, then she's an Aquarius moon. That's again why our birth times sometimes make a difference. So I'm going to go off the fact of like, I'm putting their moons actually back kind of early. I'm going to say early, especially for John. I'm putting his back here in Scorpio, but they could be different, but that's what we're just going to go off of for right now. It still makes, it still is relevant to a lot of the connections that they make as a couple, because this is not so much a natal reading for each one of them as it is a couple reading for the two of them and how they interact together. So like I said,
this is
John,
our public plea for all Bravo Labs to upload your birth times
please. I understand some of them don't, because it's quite intrusive. Like, look, I know that we're being a little intrusive. We're like,
I do get that. I was with a guy once, and I was kind of joking and asked him for his birth time, and he just handed it over, and I took it and I entered it in. And as I was searching, I was like, by the way, don't ever do that again. You should not be handing this over so easily. You're really putting yourself out there for someone to take advantage of you.
Well, this is the thing. I think Alexis would hand hers over in a minute, but I don't think John would. Like, John isn't necessarily going to, and there's reasons behind that. Anyway,
let's talk about those reasons.
Let's talk about them. So John is, like I said, John is a Scorpio sun and a Scorpio moon. He's also a Scorpio Venus and a Neptune, Scorpio Neptune. Now, the outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto are generational planets. These planets will take like a long time to go through signs, anywhere between 8 to 20 years, depending on the planet and depending on where they are in the orbit. So sometimes it doesn't make a big difference, but they can make a difference in the charts. Now, there's a 14-year age difference between the two of these people. Alexis is born in January 19th, 1977, making her a Capricorn sun, and again, a Capricorn moon. John was born October 30th, 1962. So there we go. The interesting thing is that Jim Bellino, her ex-husband, was also born in 1962.
Weird.
Yeah. From what I can tell on Google, he seems to be a Gemini, born in June of 1962. So there's a lot of similar generational aspects that Alexis has with Jim and John, like between the two. So there are certain things that like she's going to run up against that either great things that she likes, that she enjoys, that she enjoyed about Jim, that she will enjoy about John, and things that she won't, that will be very similar because they come up against these generational planets of Neptune, of Pluto, of Uranus. So we'll see that play out.
So she's got a type. There's a pattern happening here.
Yeah, Daddy, there is a type. And look, I do say this. I
want to say that too. I've got, it was through TikTok, but they were saying that basically you could look at someone's chart. I can't remember the two signs, but it was like the moon will tell you about the mom or the dad. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
That you can basically look and tell their relationship with their parents by looking at their chart.
Yes. Yeah. The moon will represent your mother figure, like, so, and the sun can represent, your father figure. Saturn can also represent dad, a father figure as well. So, and Venus can represent a mother figure as well too. So those definitely have big impacts on you. So for sure. But I would say, much to our chagrin, they do have a relatively compatible chart without knowing their ascendant.
It's because they're both terrible people.
Basically.
I just knew that they were perfect for each other, honestly, because look at them. You know what I mean? Of course you're perfect for each other.
Yeah. I mean, they have a lot of good aspects without knowing their ascendant degree. Because like, look, like certain things would like make it even better. Like they would be, like if we had like his Venus on her ascendant, that would be amazing. That would be like incredible, like wonderful, beautiful, harmonious aspects. But they have other harmonious aspects. The only thing is that there are always hardships in a relationship, and it's how you deal with those hardships that makes the big difference. You and I were talking about it when we did like a personal reading, is that I didn't really used to believe in fate until I got further and further into astrology. And now I do believe in fate a lot more, but it's how we get there. It's the different paths that we take, but we're always kind of destined to get to certain places in our life.
Right.
It's just the journey. It's like, do you take the 101 or do you take the 5? Like, you know, are you going to make this many, you know, pit stops on the way? Or are you going to go, you know, do a 1 pit stop?
Right.
It just kind of depends. So that's what I'm going to say. Like, there are bumps. They have like really good aspects, but then they've got other issues. So let's get into them, right? So
let's do it. I was like, look, I'm sick because I was like, let's start with the issues. Why am I praying for her downfall? I don't know, but I am. Actually, I do know. And you know what? That video that I don't know if you had shared it, but I sent you a screenshot of it, of her talking about how she would rather a man, it was an old season of a reunion, about how she would rather a man be the president. Where's that in her chart? Tell me. It's the daddy issues.
I mean, yes. Like,
tell me. Don't walk on eggshells. Look, I'm really just trying to pull it out of you. I'm like, be petty.
I mean, she's got like, well, look, okay. She's born on oh no, that's not what I wanted. Hold on. She's basically born on a new moon. If we've got, even if we go like that, her moon ends up being in Aquarius, she was still born on a new moon. A new moon was happening the day that she was born. So this is kind of like, it can be kind of a void because there's no, like, it could be vacuous. Right. There's a void. Right. So there's nothing there. Like, that's one way to look at it. But another way to look at it is like, she's almost like kind of like a new soul. Like, there's fresh planting. Like, there's a blank slate of which, like, you know, to create stuff. She also has Mars and Mercury here as well. She's going to talk fast. She's going to talk loud. She's like going to spit this all out, like all the time. So that's something that's like, it's really about her. Like, in her words, while I wouldn't say this is what's funny. They're not the sharpest, but they still sting. She still gets under people's skin. And that's a big thing. Yes. Now, you asked about like kind of like daddy issues here. Like, there's something in that we've got this opposition of her Saturn to his Saturn. They're right across from each other. And this is something that it's kind of wide, but she has this Saturn opposite Saturn. And that can be like a good thing because it can bring like a lot of stability and they feel like very karmically connected. But again, it's kind of like what you were like asking about, like that, like daddy issues type of thing of like the place she sees him across the way and goes, that's the stability that I've wanted. That's the figure that I've wanted. It's like looking across, it's like the Great Gatsby, like looking across the water at that light and going like, that's the light I've always seen. And that's the light I've always wanted. Once you get up close to it, sometimes it's not what you really want. So, or it's an illusion. It can be good. It can be very karmically fated. Saturn is an expression. It's the planet that's an expression of karma. And so they have a lot of feelings of being fated to each other. That happens a lot within their relationship. Another one of them is their moons sextile each other. It's a short but flowing angle. And so it feels very harmonious. They feel, and because it's with their moons, the moon also represents our body as well as our emotions. So they feel not only kind of emotionally in sync, but they also feel physically in sync. I don't doubt her at all that like, she's like, we have great sex and we're very in tune. I bet they do. Like, I absolutely agree with that. I'm sure they do.
Right. Plus all this Scorpio on his end, right?
Girl, Scorpios Scorpio men will dickmatize you. That is
literally.
like, truly. They dickmatize the shit out of you. Like that's what happens with these men. I mean, and especially him because he has Venus right here.
Yes. I was going to ask how that plays out as well. Like, what are the characteristics of Venus in Scorpio?
Well, this is the interesting thing about Venus being in Scorpio, because Venus actually doesn't like to be in Scorpio. It is it is in its detriment, what they say, because Venus rules Libra. So it's just come out of its favorite sign, Libra, but Venus also rules Taurus over here. So it's right across from it. So it's in its furthest part away from the other sign that it rules. So it doesn't, so like, while Scorpio wants to be like friends with Venus, like Venus is like, bitch, I'm tired. I don't really want to hear too much. Like you get your water, you're like weird. I don't know. Like
Venus is like love and Scorpio is like hookup.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I think that's a great way of putting it.
Plus, yeah, it's like I was trying to have a one night stand and you want a date.
Right.
And I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I think like, because it's more of like that passion of like, let's this is a quickie. Like, let's do it like hard and fast in the bathroom at a restaurant type of thing. Like,
and then don't call me afterwards.
Yeah. Libra, it like Venus and Libra or Taurus is like, let's make love for hours on end. That's like Sting making love for like 12 hours in a day. Like Venus in Scorpio is like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Not that it's bad, but it's just
there's a time and a place for it.
Always. I mean, there always is a time and a place for it.
Right. That's fair.
But also it's in retrograde. Any one of these that has it in red means it's in retrograde. And now we hear about Mercury retrograde all the time. Fabulous. Awesome. I'm glad people are more like educated about that. But Mercury retrograde happens like 3 to 4 times a year. Venus and Mars retrograde happen only once every about 2 years. So it's a little bit more rare to see this in a birth chart. So this means that him being connected to those feelings of love, like truly connected to them, it's harder for him. So like we hear him talk, especially like the way he's talked to both Alexis and Shannon, he can speak words of love, but does he really feel it? Because he seems to transfer it very easily.
Right.
So I would say like, and it's right on top of this little asteroid, this little pom-pom asteroid is called Juno. Juno is the asteroid of marriage and commitment and contracts. So this is the thing. I don't doubt that he's like saying that he thinks that he's like, he wants to make a commitment to her. Like he says he wants to make a commitment to her, but it's not like truly on the up and up. Like he's very quick to like make somebody the love of his life.
Right.
And if this is what I need to do to keep you right now, I will do it. But she sees him as somebody I want to spend a lifelong, like make a lifelong commitment with. Right. So that's one of those detriment type of places where it's like, this is where I don't think it lasts very long. Like, yeah, they make this commitment. That's where everybody's like, I don't think they'll get married. And I go, this may be one of the reasons why they don't get married. So yeah. But speaking of like her Venus, her Venus is in Pisces over here. And Venus in Pisces is what they call exalted. So while it is not in its home sign, it loves being in Pisces. So it's a great place for it to be. It's like, think about like your favorite vacation spot. Like it's not your home and you love being at home and you're always at home, but this is like your second home. It's like, it's not really your home, but you're like, I love this place. You know, it's like some people it's Hawaii, some people, it's a lake house. Some people it's, Paris, whatever it is. You're like, this is the place I feel very at home. That's what Venus in Pisces is. So I would say that's one of the reasons she's very attractive too. Like, because she's an attractive woman. She really is
really pretty.
So like this is something that's like really good, except for the fact of it is directly opposite his Pluto which look, as far as astrology is concerned, it is still a planet. Fuck what NASA
Totally.
says.
Right. Team Pluto. Justice for Pluto.
Yep. And Pluto, like besides like the Disney character dog, Pluto is the god of the underworld and god of but also a god of transformation, you know, because look, like when you go to the underworld, you go from being light to having a different type of life. There's a different type of life in the underworld. And this isn't hell, like, because hell is a different concept from like what the ancients had of the underworld. So it's just a different life. It's a second life that you have. So, and Pluto, it can transform. It can be dark. It can also be, it's also very powerful because Pluto was the god. It was the Jupiter of the underworld. So it's a very, very powerful place. And it's a very, very powerful, even though it's a teeny tiny dwarf planet, it's extremely powerful. So this again is why, because they're opposite each other and there's a tension. Oppositions create tension. Not always bad. You know, we need tension in our lives in order to grow, in order to feel things, in order to like get through stuff. So again, this is why sparks fly. This is why it is hot and heavy, especially at the beginning, I would say. Like this is, but at the same time, she may start to feel him become jealous and possessive, or he may start to feel or like the opposite sign is that side is like what you were talking about with the piece that actually we reposted on our TikTok from Kate Casey, that it was her it was her talking about like wanting a woman, not wanting a woman president, of her being like too passive, of like, oh, I just want the man to do everything. But he's like, I thought I was getting an empowered, more modern type of woman. Why do I have to do everything? And that can make him mad too. So it kind of swings either way. With Jim has the same aspect because they're him and John and Jim are generationally connected through this aspect right here to her. Jim was the one who became kind of jealous and possessive and didn't, I mean, I'm speculating just from what we saw. I don't want Jim to come after me, but what we saw on television.
But that was what I was going to ask too, is because I remember I noticed kind of, which is a trend with men and women, I feel like, that when she started to do she was trying to be like a meteorologist or something, when she started trying to do weather, it was like, then all of a sudden he was clinging on. So maybe not specifically jealous of like a relationship of her liking other men, but like, you were dependent on me, you know, and it's the opposite of what you're saying, which there's two sides to the coin that it can express itself through. Right. But yeah, I wonder if that would eventually play out. And it would be interesting to see how it plays out with John, because his relationship with Shannon, which I wish I would have thought about doing Shannon's on here as well. But the way that it played out with him, allegedly, according to Shannon, is that she was doing a lot of supportive stuff, at least in the beginning. Right. So I wonder if that's playing out with her as well. Like if he would be into her going and doing her own thing, or if he would, you know, shut down.
Well, I mean, I do have Shannon's chart, so we could take a sneak or we could save that for another episode.
A different episode?
I think maybe we save that for a different episode.
Totally.
We got to keep it coming back.
Shannon needs her own chart reading.
She does.
Her own individual chart.
We'll give her that. But yeah. You're exactly on point. This is that tension that comes there, and it can express itself in different ways depending on the individuals where it happens. So I definitely think you're onto something, and that's exactly what, because also like for him, it's very close to this Juno, again, this commitment asteroid right here. So this is, again, it's like he wants to commit. It's this kind of almost, I get the feeling of like kind of like trying to hold on to something. Like, you know, when you try to hold on to something, you try to hold on to water too tightly, it just slips through your fingers, as opposed to if you like gently cup it, that's when you can actually hold it. And that's a lot of times what you'll see. Like, and I get that feeling of like really trying to hold on to it, and you can't because it'll just slip through your fingers. So in order for like their relationship to work, he has to like get past that. he would have
Mhm.
to allow that, to flow through. And
Right.
I don't know if he can. We'll see. I
My
mean,
money's on no. The early prediction,
I know.
and that's not from astrology. That's from recognizing patterns in men. But of course, I don't want to overgeneralize. I mean, I love to, but I shouldn't.
That's what
It's one of my favorite things to
podcasts are
do.
for.
That's true. Why are we here if not to generalize, overgeneralize?
As long as we don't get nasty about it, I'm like, might as well
Right.
just like give our little like opinions. Come on.
Right.
Like, I'm not about cutting somebody down, but I'm about like, look, I see this truth here. I've been in it. Oh my
Right.
God. Like, look, I'm
Yeah.
5'10". I've dated men who are like 6 feet tall. And the minute I start putting on heels or we're further into the relationship and I'm wearing heels and they're like, do you have to wear heels? And I'm like, excuse me, I have been this tall
Gross.
since we started dating like 4 months ago. Why is it now a problem?
Right.
And that's
Don't
what
project
happens.
on me.
Yeah. And that's what happens. And that's some of these things. So actually this is one of the things too, is that let's see. Again, going back to the little pom-pom guy, because
Mhm.
it's conjunct not only his Venus, but also his moon. So again, it can be favorable because he can feel like emotionally and physically safe with her and like physically
Mhm.
committed. Like he can create that physical commitment again, but that's
Right.
sex a lot of the time. But the dark side is that she could have to spend a lot of time and energy trying to make him feel secure in the relationship.
I could see that. Just based
Mhm.
on the relationship of him with Shannon. And again, we didn't even see him on screen that much, but it's like he's so, from my perspective, predictable. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
he's an archetype. I don't see a lot of like layers to this man. You know what I mean? Fragile ego. And even now, which it may be like Scorpio energy too, I'm noticing, and it's not hard to notice, like I'm not saying he's not into Alexis because, like you said, they are compatible. They've got a lot going on, but
Mhm.
his fixation on Shannon, maybe not in a love way, but like fixation
Mhm.
on destroying her life or being involved, like for whatever it is, he's not letting her go. He will not just release her and let her be free.
Mhm. I mean, that's such a Scorpio male type of thing, like such a Scorpio thing. Also, like such a almost even if he doesn't have like a Scorpio rising or anything like that,
Mhm.
he's got this stellium in Scorpio.
Right.
Even he's got an stellium is 3 or more planets in a sign. Basically, it kind of weights a sign down. Like, and it could
Right.
be anything. Like you could have well, I mean, she has it too with Mercury, Mars, and the sun. Like, let's not even include the moon. Like, she
Capricorn.
has 3 right there in Capricorn. But even if,
Mhm.
like, she didn't, even if it wasn't her sun, like, let's say she had Venus here, that would be 3 right there. Even if it was Pluto, it would be 3 right there. Like, it just kind of weights it more towards
Right.
something. So he definitely has he has bigger weight into Scorpio, period.
Right.
Period. So, like, kind of that, all those like bad things when it comes to like Scorpios, because Scorpios are not all bad. Like I love to
Right.
bash a Scorpio, like sorry, but I was almost a Scorpio. Like I
Right.
was this close to being a Scorpio, and I am not. Thank goodness. Um, but Scorpios are not all bad. That's the thing is
Right.
that they are very loyal. They are very intense, but that intensity can like really at times like really shine through in how they protect you and they go to bat for
Yes.
you too. Like they will, if they don't like you, they may not let it go, but if they do love you, they also won't let it go in a
Right.
good way at times. They
Yeah.
also they also can be they're a fixed sign, so they're very solid. So
Right.
they don't I'm not going to say like not in the sense of like cheating stray, but like kind of like when they make their mind up about something, they like make their mind up about something.
Right.
So, but it also is hard for them to change.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
for a man who is now who's about to be 62, I'm going to say it's going to be a little bit harder for him to change. He's also gone through his second Saturn return already. So if he was going to do a major like
It would
overhaul
have
of his
happened by
life,
now.
yeah, yeah, this is where you
Yeah,
kind
why
of
would he
settle
want
in.
to change? He's only been, from my perspective, he has only been rewarded for his terrible fucking behavior.
Thank you.
Don't get me on my soapbox.
Girl.
Men on Bravo.
Oh my gosh.
Look,
but well, okay. So, but like going back to like kind of like almost fixed signs and like commitment, her moon here, I mean, it's kind of out of sign, but depending obviously what time she was born. Also, his Saturn is conjunct her moon.
okay.
So this can lead to serious commitment because Saturn it takes about 3 years to go through a sign. It definitely changes things up. It is the god of time, but it's also but it is like a planet of commitment, of getting serious about things, about really like buckling down and saying like, this is what I'm going to do. And again, an expression of karma, like they can feel that like this is fated, like meeting is fated, being together is fated. And honestly, it could be like I said, I do believe in fate now. Like, and there's another aspect that brings this into as well.
Yeah. And I also think that it could be there, not to put it all on Shannon too, but that could be part of Shannon's karma. You know what I mean? Like they could be fated to teach Shannon something.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to drop this in there because I just talked about his second Saturn return. Shannon is going through her second Saturn return now.
That tracks.
And yes. And that started in March of 2023. And if we want to think about what her life has gone through since in the last year and a half so far. So like,
can you talk a little bit about, for anyone who doesn't know, I don't know what level of astrology lovers are on here, but can you talk about the Saturn return and what that entails actually, if people haven't heard of it?
Oh yeah, totally. So Saturn return is Saturn, I'll point to it up here, at least in John's chart, is Saturn returning to the sign that it was in at the time of your birth. And it takes anywhere between like 28 to 32 years. So it'll kind of depend on what sign it's in and where you are. It's like some people, it happens more along, it'll happen earlier to them at like closer to 28. Other people happen closer to like 30, 32. Just depends on your sign. It depends on your chart and you have to look at it. But your first Saturn return, when it comes in, it basically, it's interesting because it's that big change, really, truly, into adulthood. Like you're transitioning out of your late 20s, out of your 20s into your 30s. You know, a lot of times this is where, especially nowadays, even more so, like people start to become parents, they start to get married, and that's a change. And you kind of all of a sudden, a lot of us have that realization of, oh, I'm not so young anymore.
Right.
Like, oh,
or
okay.
like, what am I doing? For me personally, that's when I checked out of like autopilot, that I had just been kind of like cruising through life, stumbling into decisions. And then it was that moment for me that was like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, I have autonomy. Why am I not like taking actionable steps towards the life that I actually want, you know, which is probably the most adult thing I've ever done.
See? And that's the thing, is that Saturn will bring these events into your life that will wake you up and that will like, and take you, and depends on what house it's in too. So like for me, it was in my 7th house, and truly
too.
We both started getting rocked by horrible relationships, but that also, these relationships with people make us look at ourselves and how we're relating to other people and how we value ourselves as well. Because that 7th house is across from the 1st house, which is the house of ourself, our body, of all those things. Let's say your Saturn return is in your 10th house of career. You all of a sudden might lose your job. You might all of a sudden and that was your dream job, or you thought it was your dream job. You thought you wanted to be a lawyer all your life. And all of a sudden you get like, you're losing cases and your firm drops you all of a sudden. And you're like, I don't know if I even want to do this anymore. And you're floundering for like 2 or 3 years. But also Saturn gives you that time and gives you an opportunity to not just pick yourself up, but try to figure yourself out. And usually it is a starting point for the next few years to figure these things out. The interesting thing is then at about 12 to 14 years later, you go through your Saturn opposition, which is right across from it, which is ironically like her, she's right across from it. And that happens around 44. this is a funny thing. Scientifically, it is shown that you go through major aging times around your late 20s, early 30s, physically.
Yeah.
Then around the age of 44, you go through a major aging like upgrade. And then around 60, which is when you usually go through your second Saturn return. Your Saturn opposition is another time where like it's usually easier, but you kind of those things that started to happen are happened at your Saturn return. Not that they come up, but sometimes you're across from it now and you have a better perspective of it.
A little space from it.
You do. Yes, you do. And so maybe definitely things have changed, but it's going to be different for everybody. But it almost is less of like something I can't even verbalize it, but I can look at it now. I can go, oh, yeah. I can see this.
The way that you described the Saturn return, I had never thought about it, that the 7th house is opposite of the 1st house. And that is what happened in my relationship. All my shit got rocked because it was during COVID. So that was really like magnified, but relationship ended. And then I had to retreat into myself, honestly, for the first time, because like we talked about, I was in like a 10-year relationship with my husband. And then I dated for several years. And it was like, all of a sudden I had nothing left. And I had no choice but to look in the mirror and be like, who are you outside of a relationship? Which was a groundbreaking question for me to have to ask myself.
And that's the thing. A lot of times, like it is about asking who you are. Like I said, like if it was your 10th house of career, sometimes maybe you had to move back home. Like, because that's opposite your 4th house of home. Like maybe you had to move back home. Maybe you had to have like really like intense conversations with family members about like you always wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor, but I don't really want to be that. That's not who I am, or if it's in your 11th house of like social networks of friends or how you make money through your career, you go, I actually don't like my friends. Like these are all the people I grew up with. And I realized like they don't serve my purpose. They actually don't, they're not helping me grow in life. And this is really hard. Now I'm having friend breakups, but that's opposite your house of like creativity and children and stuff like that. Or it's like because you have a child, your friend group changes. Then that happens when you have children, your friend group changes. Or it's because they have children and you're not having a child, your friend group changes. You entered like new periods of creativity. This again, it's why birth times are important, because we can find these houses. I cannot tell you what their Saturn returns were because I don't know their birth times and I don't know their houses. So, I can just know that like, I can know though, that for the interesting thing is that Saturn rules the sign of Aquarius. It is the ancient ruler of Aquarius. It rules Capricorn and Aquarius. So Saturn feels at home in John's chart in Aquarius. So it does very well there. However, it is opposite its ruler in Leo. It actually does not like being in Leo. It does not function very well in Leo. Again, why I think there's even more tension, and why I think it's I think his Saturn will overpower her Saturn in a sense. And then it's like, and it's either she gives in or she gives out. It's not, she's not going to fight for it. It's kind of like I just always think of that.
That's Jim as well.
Yeah. And that's why I think of like that I think we all remember that dinner that she had with Jim, when all of a sudden you just saw the light go out in her eyes and she just was like, I can't. It's really sad. Like,
I know, I was going to say, as much as I've talked shit about her, like that was heartbreaking to see. And you see it so many times, especially on Bravo. Ariana, same thing happens. It's like, as soon as a woman will try to elevate herself, a man will just come in and again, I don't want to overgeneralize because I have a son. I don't want to like Superman bash, but as a pattern, they will come in and feel threatened, and you can see it. There's that make or break moment, like you said, of like, she can decide to be like, you know what, I'm actually going to choose myself versus like, you're right, I don't want to hurt your fragile ego, like we talked about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, but this is the thing too, is that his Saturn is conjunct his south node. The nodes of the moon are the places, the mathematical places where eclipses happen every every 6 months, and they actually move clockwise. Yeah, they move clockwise. I have to remember because certain things move counterclockwise. It's the planets move counterclockwise through the zodiac, and the ascendant and the nodes move clockwise. So it's funny. Everything's kind of like, yeah. But the South Node is a place where we are releasing things. It's our house of karma, or not a house. It's a place of karma, like, working through karma from past lives. But it's also a point of like, just like releasing stuff from not only this life, but past lives, like things we need to work through to get over, to hopefully leave and not carry with us into the next life. Whereas the North Node is a place that we're going to. It's like things that we're hungry for in this life that we're hoping to like gain, and what we are moving towards. With his South Node conjunct Saturn, really, I would say a lot of it is like he needs to try to like let go of control. Let go.
He's not doing a great job.
I would say no, it's not. And the fact that like, and the fact that it is conjunct her moon here, it's so close to her moon and her sun, but like it again, it's a fated relationship. They've met before in a previous lifetime. This was bound to happen, but it doesn't mean it's forever. Even with Saturn there, like I would say with Saturn there, it gives it more sticking power. So I think it's going to last longer than we think. Right. Like this could last a few years. Right. This could last a few years, but I don't think it's going to last like the rest of their lives, because the thing is that his North Node is also conjunct Mars, and that is a little angry. It's a little aggro. It also is about cutting and running at times. Yeah. Like so he could get to a point where he just like literally drops her. Right. Because he's not feeling it anymore. So that's where I just go. I think when it ends, it will end suddenly for her. She won't see it coming. Even if she wants out.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Because it's almost
she doesn't seem especially perceptive,
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet Alexis.
There's one other like thing, I mean, that I think is kind of big, is that also, so her Jupiter, no, that's not bad. So her Jupiter down here is opposite his Venus. Now, these are two like great planets again, like Jupiter is the great benefic. Venus is the lesser benefic. Basically, like kind of like wherever they go, they still are positive. Even when they're in the not great place, they're still pretty good planets, to be honest with you. So again, lots of love and attraction. This entire relationship is characterized by loving attraction and sex and like a good looking couple, even though I like to call him Timu Al Gore. Like, I got that off of Reddit. Somebody said it on Reddit. I don't know who it was on Reddit, but I give them props. Like I did not come up with that.
I have not been able to unsee that. I saw a meme of that and I have not been able to unsee it. Also, annoyingly, the timing to say this is terrible, but I used to think Al Gore was so hot.
But he was.
He was.
He was.
But John Jansen, and he is objectively, if I had just seen him and didn't know his personality whatsoever.
Well, we all thought he was attractive when Shannon started dating him. That's the thing, is that like, and that's the thing with most people. You see them across the room. I think it was actually Luke Perry who said it. It was like, you can't judge personality from across the room. So yes, you always judge somebody by their looks first. Right. And so like, yeah, for a 60-year-old man, the man was good looking, but once you get to know him, then he becomes less attractive. Just like somebody who you don't necessarily find attractive right away, the more you get to know him, you're like, oh my God, this person is amazing. Like, and people are like, you really think he's hot? And you're like, fuck yeah, he's hot. Right. Like he's enlightened. He's like amazing. Like he's courteous. He's kind. He's got great opinions. Like this man is amazing. Like, he listens. Oh my God. So yeah, like
groundbreaking.
Yeah. So this is the thing, like, but the thing is that her Jupiter out here, down here is like, she's going to want to be out and about, like, because Jupiter is big. Jupiter is also, Jupiter is Zeus. Jupiter like went around, and not that she's going to do this, but like, Jupiter had lots of lovers and like to like dance and party and like, get other goddesses and people pregnant, like Jupiter likes to go out, like, and Jupiter thinks that because it can, Jupiter rules everything. Jupiter can do what it wants to do. And she's also like in a time of her life of like, I feel like my kids are grown. They're almost all out of the house. Like I can do more of what I want to do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so she's going to want to be out and about, and he's going to want to be home. She's secure in the spotlight. She likes being in the spotlight. She thrives being in the spotlight. And while I think he likes the idea of being in the spotlight, he's insecure in the spotlight.
That's it, because I was literally going to ask you that. I mean, that's a point of contention for Shannon, and we heard it. Like we knew, I believed it when Shannon said he does not like all of his business being out there, mainly because I thought he was probably up to some shady shit that he didn't want to come out. But then all of a sudden now he's out with Alexis. And I didn't know if it was because it pissed Shannon off. That same thing I was talking about, being transfixed on just like ruining Shannon. It's like, I will go out in public if it means that Shannon is miserable, you know? And I was wondering if there's something else in his chart that kind of balances out, maybe that she brings out, that keeps him from being like secretive. Or do you think it's just like put on?
I think, well, Scorpios, this is the thing. Scorpios in general, like they like to be seen. They like to only give out the information that they want you to know.
Right. So maybe he feels more in control of the narrative this time around.
Yeah. Scorpios can have control issues like that. Of like, I need you to only know what I want you to know, not what everybody else, what other people tell. And the thing is that when you put yourself in the public eye, you can't control what comes out. Like when you put yourself, especially on reality TV, you cannot control that narrative. As much as Tamara tries to, she cannot control it.
Tamara's crazy to me because she will, like, on video, will say something and then she'll say the opposite. And it's like, we have, like, I'm being gaslit and we literally have video evidence of it. And she's just like, no. Like, it's like she's fully committed to the bit, you know?
Well, you know, we got a president that way.
I respect to a level, I guess. I was literally going to say, this is all sounding really familiar, but.
Really familiar. Well, that's pretty much like all I have for them, like for right now, like, because I don't. That's really kind of as far as I can go, at least at the moment. I don't want to bore people too much. We're almost at an hour or so, like, and without their ascendants. So it's like, do you have any other question that you can think of?
I don't think so. I did see some of this Libra stuff over here. Or does any of that matter?
I mean,
their overlap on the Libra. I guess his is really only one like major placement. Or his.
Yeah, like this. Well, it's on top of her, like, her Pluto, kind of, it's a little off. My first thing is that, like, I don't know why, but it just like popped in my head that like she likes it when he talks dirty to her. It just popped into my head.
Did she say something about that though?
I don't know. Did she?
Maybe I'm like blurring my memories together, but I swear I remember her saying something about them having phone sex.
If anything, well, if anything though, I would say at the basis level though, like they kind of bring out maybe the worst in each other when it comes to like talking. Like they might be able to like talk a lot of shit together, and it could be like these, but also they could have maybe somewhat, but they have to watch out because it could, whereas they're focusing it outwards, they have to watch out that eventually could get focused inwards on each other and on the relationship.
I'm wondering if that is something, because it seems to be that they are bonded over, because she kind of has that same fixation on ruining Shannon's life. And it's almost like that's something that's bringing them together, is their like mutual disdain for her, or just like desire to ruin her life. You know, it's like it seems to be like they're getting joy out of it, which is when it gets a little too dark for me. It's like, if she were just upset because it was happening, that's one thing, but she is like really putting her finger in the wound, you know? And I do wonder if that's kind of what's bringing them together, because, you know, That's a mutual hatred for someone is a great way to bond. And it's like, once that kind of wears off and Shannon's not really affected anymore, it's like, is that maybe when they're like, oh, we actually didn't have anything other than talking shit about Shannon.
And that happens a lot. I think that's why I'm always like, that's why you should always be wary of the guy who calls his ex crazy, because then that's A, you become the next crazy ex, but B, he talks shit about her. He talks shit about everybody. Like, I had an ex who did that. I didn't quite realize it. Like, but I was like, oh, he talks shit about everybody at every point. And, but it was because it was a bonding thing. And because it was also a poor me, look at what my ex did to me type of like, ooh, look at me. And because, okay, hold up. Because, okay, this little key guy over here, this green key is Chiron, the wounded healer. This is about a wound that it's not really a karmic wound. It's not about past life. It's usually a wound that we get in this lifetime, usually as a child, that we have to work through, and it keeps rearing its ugly head, and it gets sparked at times. And it's conjunct his Jupiter. Jupiter also magnifies things. So
I was going to say,
so he could just like literally almost like an open wound be like spilling whatever this wound is that he has out onto everybody, and like, you know, just like pour it out. And she's like, oh, he's the wounded bird to a lot of people, to a lot of women. Oh, poor me. Oh, what happened to me? Because he's not working on it himself. And he has a chance right now, while Saturn is in Pisces, to sew that up and to heal himself if he doesn't rely on somebody else. I don't think he's ever, actually, he said it in an interview that I found online with Shannon when they were like kind of first together. And she said, like, have you ever lived alone or like been on your own? And he said he has never been on his own. So this man has never, he's never been not in a relationship. There's like so many things I could say, like he repeats stuff and like, No,
I was going to say, actually, I said that doesn't surprise me, but I could have also seen him being like a complete bachelor his whole life, you know,
but not
actually tied down.
He's a relationship hopper. I believe he's only been married once, but he's serial monogamist.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it doesn't surprise me. Like, either he has somebody lined up afterwards or he just meets somebody right away. I mean, like, of course he's the quiet woman. That's a place to like pick up women. Like, that is the middle-aged singles joint in the OC.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like on like Laguna, Newport Coast, like area. That's that area. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Totally.
Interesting.
So yeah, like he's just this like wounded bird, but who likes to like push it out onto everybody else and
uses the victimization as a control. I feel like would be like a really good way to utilize that wound, is like, now people feel sorry for me and they'll do what I need them to do, because especially if you find a woman who's a fixer, like she's, you know, what do they call it? Sergeant Save-A-Ho or whatever, you know, like a project. I look, and now I am projected, because I definitely like I'm so ashamed to admit this, because it's probably the most pick me behavior I've ever engaged with, but like thinking like I can fix him. Like, he's just misunderstood. You know what I mean? Like, Shannon didn't get him, but me, Alexis, I can fix it because she didn't have what it took. I've got what it takes.
But that's what we've been taught, though. And especially as like Christian women. And so I'm going to put this onto Alexis, especially as Christian women, to like serve our man, to help him achieve his goals. Like, it is very much like ingrained in this Christian American culture, like to save these men, but they are not here to save us.
Right.
Like, they're here to like protect us or to like provide for us, but that's like, it's not the same thing. There's no serving women. There's no serving women in that. So yeah, like he's what I think what Dr. Ramani, if she watched him be called a vulnerable narcissist, and he weaponizes his
Ooh.
vulnerability to like first supply and to get what he wants. So, and I
That
the only
actually
reason
gave me chills. I'm not even kidding. That's terrifying.
I mean, I'm willing to call him a vulnerable narcissist because of the way that like he, given last night's episode, because we're recording this on Friday the 13th. Woo!
Yes.
That Shannon offered him what he wanted money wise, and he won't do it without signing the non-disparagement clause. And Emily was like, well, that means it's not about the money. And that it's true. Yeah. He wants to make her pay for some reason. So, and pay emotionally. And I would say, societally.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But yeah. But I think that's it for Alexis and John. I think we've said a lot about it.
So they burn out quick, but not as quickly as we want them to.
Not as quickly as we would like. I mean, I would love to be wrong about that part.
Right. She'll juice out at least a couple of seasons. I figured they stay together for, if nothing else, for the clout.
I mean, granted, I think she definitely, Jordan thinks it, and I don't disagree that she thinks it's going to get her an orange, get her back on. He doesn't think so. I think it's 50-50 because I do think it is drumming up enough controversy. Yep. It's getting more eyes back on the show. I mean, OC's been kind of floundering a bit for a while. So, and Tamara's not bringing it back.
No. And especially if they were going to move Heather to Beverly Hills, which I don't know if that's going to happen either. But if she goes, I feel like that would draw away,
Yeah. I don't think
Heather said.
I don't think Heather, personally, I don't think Heather works on Beverly Hills because Heather needs to be a queen bee. She's not a queen bee in Beverly Hills.
That's very true. I think that might be kind of why I want to see it, because to see her be like, now you're not, you know what I mean? You're not special anymore. How are you going to handle that? Of course, she is still hella fucking rich. So,
Yeah. Yes. She is hella rich. But it's just like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, cool.
Well, thank you for showing us all that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Next episode, we're going to do Bethany Frankel.
Yes. I can't wait. I wish I could do the whole episode in the filter.
No, I wish you could too.
It's so inconvenient that I have to depend on a Snapchat filter because it really limits me. But I'm excited. That one, I'm ready. I've got questions lined up. I'm ready for that one.
Oh my God. It's going to be amazing. So good. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, everybody, make sure, if you haven't already, to like, share, and subscribe and follow Pretty Corrupt Podcast everywhere you can. I mean, we've got links, but also make sure that you're subscribed and you follow Dahlia Bradshaw Bravo Bitchfest on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Threads, on everything. I'm going to put links down for her in the description below. So yes. And also we're on YouTube. So hopefully you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this and you're like, I can't follow this. Well, guess what, darlings? We're on YouTube.
There's video for a reason.
Exactly. And so you could see all of this on the YouTube channel. Yeah. Yes. So like, hopefully you paused this. Hopefully you were like, oh, wait a minute. Hasn't Stacy been saying that they're on YouTube? I should go to YouTube. I should subscribe. That way I can see all of these astrology videos myself.
That's right. And catch us on the next one if it's too late for this one.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And we will catch you next time.